Coach Adam is my lifesaver today, since this week has just been kind of one of those really strange weeks for everyone. And Roland is unfortunately not able to be here today. And so you get the amazing and talented Coach Adam to do questions and stuff about deals specifically today, that we'll do a Q&A. And then we are going to make up the call with Roland. So don't worry, you're still going to get your call with Roland. I just have to get everything squared away with him, and then we'll get that back on the calendar. We'll reschedule and we'll get another call. So again, my sincerest apologies. I still thought it was better that we do a call and get Adam on here to do Q&A than to just cancel the call. So thank you, Adam. I appreciate that.
Of course, Deanna, anything for you. And, if anyone cares, I helped somebody secure a deal. Deanna, I told you about it, which was pretty fun. So we can talk about that as well. Yeah, it was pretty good. The original valuation was $1 million, and they bought it for $300K. So.
Yeah, so I actually, that's kind of a good segue, because I know, I don't think anyone else knows the details of that deal, and that's one of our members here. And so that's kind of cool. And I think the other thing that we want to talk about is that people don't realize that that's what the coaches are for. Like, that's what they're here to help with and do. And that's something that Adam's been able to do with this member. So why don't we just segue into that, and you kind of share how that came to be, what you were able to, because you negotiated it amazingly, by the way. And got it to where it was. And now we've got a very happy a member who just closed their deal. So
who's on a second deal right now because of it. So for everyone, do you guys want that? Is that interesting to you guys?
Is that good for you guys? And then we can do Q&A. Yeah. And then Adam, I may have to leave at the top of the hour. I do have a funeral to go to, so we'll figure out where things are.
Sorry. Yeah.
No,
so
it's okay.
Honestly, these things usually take like 45 to 50 minutes. I've noticed anyway. But so all right, let's go. Okay, so the way it worked, it was two Epic people. They graduated from Epic, and during it was a deal they really wanted that they spoke to me about with a company that had a huge podcast, but they weren't doing the revenue numbers they should. Valued at a 6x multiple, and they were friends with Mind Valley, which was kind of proving a problem because they were using the multiple of Mind Valley as their multiple. And in fact, I think Mind Valley was like 14x. And so they were trying to use that, and they were like, we only want 6x or something crazy like that, or whatever it worked out to be. And so I was coaching them through like the negotiation, and they'd done the discovery phase without me. So if you guys remember, I usually do a two-part negotiation, discovery first and then the real negotiation. And then they finished Epic. So they contacted me after they left and said, hey, we're at the stage of negotiation, and we can't think of anyone better considering you came up with a lot of the strategy to do it than you. Can we hire you to be a negotiator on our behalf? And that's something that I absolutely do for the right people. It's something that I'm talking to Roland and Deanna about rolling out for anyone here that wants it. And so they hired me as their negotiator. So we get in, and there's three partners. One of them's not in the room. He just wants out. He doesn't care. He's letting the other two partners handle everything. So now there's two partners left. One of them is very passive, just sits there quietly. The other one is an aggressor. And as soon as we get into the negotiation, this guy starts trying to pull me apart. He's like, look, just so you know, we know what we want, we know what we're worth, blah, 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 blah. And so I say to them, are you guys okay with brutal honesty? And so they say, what do you mean by that? And I was like, brutal honesty is very simple. I want to just tell the truth. And if you guys are okay with that and your egos won't get hurt, then we can come to a very real decision. I was like, I don't want to pay a premium for this. I also don't want you guys to get screwed out of money. I want to pay a very fair price. And as long as you're okay with that, then I'd like us to proceed. If, however, you want a premium, if that's what you're after, we're not the right people for you. So they say they already have an offer of just under $1 million on the table. The reason they're interested in us is because they would like us to, be co-owners. That's what they're after. So I say, from my understanding, these pieces are all missing in your company. And I start listing all the roles they don't have, which is marketing, advertising, a sales team, a strategy for scale. They've been stuck at the same price for like 2 years. And I was like, is it correct that all these things are missing? And they say, yeah. And I was like, okay, in that case, you guys have to understand we're not buying a fully finished business here. We're buying something that is pieces, not the whole thing. And they're like, yeah, but the opportunity is huge. So they start talking about this opportunity. So I say, okay, understood. I was like, but we have to realize that somebody's going to have to realize that opportunity. That's going to take work and effort. And it's not coming from you guys. And they're like, well, we could do it. I'm like, but you haven't yet. And they're like, no. It's like, we only pay for things that have been done, not things that could be done, especially if we have to do them. Otherwise, we would have to get paid for that. So considering we're buying it, the opportunity comes from us, not from you. So that doesn't come into the negotiation. So this guy's like, who are you? Is like the first thing to come. And I was like, I'm a trusted friend of these guys. I do mergers, acquisitions, and negotiations for a living. I was like, I may or may not be interested in coming on board myself. I was like, but that's not on the table right now. What is on the table right now is, in this situation, I have a lot of experience at your kind of business at monetizing audiences. So that's why I've been chosen to negotiate the deal. I was like, I'm well aware of what your company could be worth. I'm also well aware of what it's actually worth today. And then I use my favorite line. If you guys, I'd write this down. I'd be like, buying a business is like buying a home. Obviously, you have a lot of sentimental value attached to it. Obviously, you like the idea that you could expand an extra floor above it. But the cost of adding that floor, someone's got to bear the brunt of. Also, the sentimental value doesn't mean anything to me who's coming in. I need it to be a fair price. I need it to match the comparable in the area, or in this case, other businesses. And a business that is missing sections that have to be fulfilled is going to be purchased at a lower price, no matter what you want. So the guy keeps arguing with me about this point, and I sort of like stay quiet, let him talk for a bit. And then I'm like, look, are you guys interested in us buying it at all? And they go, well, yeah, obviously. I'm like, okay, cool. If you're interested in us buying it, then let's get away from, any of like the arguments about who's right and who's wrong. Let's just work on the price. And the guy's like, okay, agreed. Oh, cool. This is the kind of price we want. And I told him we want a 2.5x, which would have worked out to like 250K or something. I forget the exact number. It was like 2.5. And I said, but in the right situation, there is some wiggle room to go up to 3. But in that situation, that would be, you guys are out of the company. So we'd pay 3x if you guys leave, 2.5 if you guys stay. Now, fun fact, I already told my team, the people I'm working for, that actually the final price is going to be 3x with them staying on board. And I already said that to them, that that's what they're going to come back with. Because I purposely showed them it's 2.4 or 3 without them, knowing they would say 3, but we stay. So I've given them their negotiation, right? They know what to do. So sure enough, they go away and they want some time to think about it. I never let them come up with a deal then. I'm like, I need you guys to go think about it for 24 hours. They come back after the weekend on Monday and they go, yeah, 3x, and we said that's the deal. And so the deal was settled at that. Now, full disclaimer, the people that hired me haven't accepted the deal yet. There's still some minor detail negotiations. And in fact, at this point, there is an argument for 3x without the 2 guys, because during the negotiation, some things came up that they were hiding some numbers, and that all came out in due diligence. And now the people that hired me are kind of deciding they may not buy it unless these 2 guys leave. So it may not go through anyway, but I got paid for negotiating, and they were very happy that, the final price, I think, was $300,000, I think is what's agreed on. So that's the negotiation. That's what went down. It was a lot of fun. And I think favorite comments came from the 2 guys that hired me. And they said, we've never seen somebody stay so calm. Like, they're like, we would have lost temper by now. They're like, you just stay chill the whole time. And yeah, I told them, to me, it's a game. It's just playing. Like, I don't know this guy. He doesn't saying to me like, who the hell are you? That doesn't matter to me. I'm just there to do my job. So there you go.
It was smart. I think it was smart that they hired you, because you came in on the outside and you weren't involved in it. And so you were able to look at things in a much calmer way and look at things and bring a different perspective to it. So that was just brilliant. And I'm so glad it's working out.
Thanks, Dana. One of the things that I really like about it is I got to be the bad guy, because if they did end up partnering, you want the bad guy to leave. Like, they want to be like, this guy's an asshole. But actually, there was a really good comment that I threw out in the middle of it, which I said, hey man, listen, you and me are both amazing negotiators, obviously. He wasn't, I said anyway. And I was like, can you imagine the 2 of us on the same side? And he goes, that would be amazing. And it was such a good turning point. It's like when they went from hostile to friendly. So just remember, imagining a future where we're both on the same side of the table really makes a difference to people. They like that, especially if you're a hard negotiator. I'm like, everyone calls me friendly me. Like, I won't budge on my points, but I'm really friendly. So
we have a couple of questions on here too. So basically, Darrell says, you said they weren't doing the numbers they should have from the podcast. What's typical? Oh, never mind. You did answer that, right? Okay.
I did, but let me just raise a point to that as well. It's funny because they're now going into another deal with someone else. They're just trying to acquire companies right now, and it looks like they're doing 1 a month. That's like their rate, which is great for me because they're going to hire me to do 1 a month. But the thing that we spoke about is they're buying this one from a celebrity who's got a huge audience. They're buying the audience. And we were joking that celebrities always make like a $10 or $50 product and just sell the one product over and over again. People like Roland and myself, our audiences aren't as big. That doesn't mean we don't have big audience. They're not as big. And so we rely on upsells. So I make triple on the upsell that I do on the core offer. So when buying a celebrity's audience, if they're making, $100,000 a year, I assume I'm going to make the same amount and then triple on the upsell. So I assume it's probably worth $400,000 because of doing the upsell. So the first thing I look for is, do they have upsells? And if they don't, I'm like, okay, well, I'm probably going to 3x my money. So it's worth thinking about.
And if you guys are just joining, we have quite a few people that have just joined. I know you see beautiful Coach Adam's face here instead of Roland's. Roland had a scheduling issue today. We've had some issues this week, so apologize on that. Adam has graciously filled in. We're doing Q&A. He was just talking about his deal. We are going to reschedule the call with Roland, so don't worry. We will have that for you. But welcome. We're glad to have. I see some new faces in here, so that's exciting. Adam, here's another question. This one's from Vincent. I've gotten a list of potential acquisitions from a broker, but it's preliminary. I'd like to get some basic info around financials and the asking price. They want to qualify me a buyer first, showing funding sources. How would you approach communicating with them to get the basic info and deal summaries?
So one of the things I like doing when I get these guys is seeing if they'll be open to that like initial discovery call. And I'll often say to people, hey, would you guys be okay with having just a preliminary chat just to see how well we get on? Like, just to see if there's even a deal here if we just pencil the whole thing out. So I would strongly consider just seeing if they're open to that. I had a similar situation. One of the one of the Epic coaching people said to me the other day, they want to get into the deal. They want to see all the financials. They're like, but the person playing hard to get about it. And I was like, just see if they'll have a casual 5-minute chat. If they won't even have a 5-minute conversation with you, they're probably not that interested in selling. But somebody that's open to, somebody who really wants to sell, they're going to say, yeah, let's have a chat. And that's where you can have like an outline about the numbers. And they're probably going to lie. You kind of like just have to know that. They're going to give you like the best case scenario. But that can be useful as well, because you can do the price based on the best case scenario. And then when you find that it isn't that, that's where your discount starts coming in.
Yep. And Mark, you have an active deal and a buying side deal. So you have any questions about that, or want to share anything about that?
Right. So my company, CleanConnect.ai, it is a AI software company for oil and gas. So my customers are the oil and gas operators, usually what they call the independents, not necessarily the majors, although the majors are interested in what we're doing as well. What we actually do is help automate compliance. So these are heavily regulated industries. So around emissions control and stuff like that. So a publicly traded company is interested in buying into our company. And the reason why is because they're stuck in oil and gas services multiples. So their stock prices stayed stuck for 7 straight years because they're valued probably at about less than 1 times revenue. Mm-hmm. Whereas an oil and gas AI software company is probably trading at 8 times revenue. Mm-hmm. And so they want to buy us because they think, honestly, the return on investment will probably be about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. They would buy us, announce it to the market, and then their stock price will probably jack up double, which would be worth $40 million to them because they're a small nonprofit. They're a small publicly traded company. Anyway, we hit it out. So that's going well. But I want them to earn in. So I want to set it up where, we have a reseller agreement. I onboarded their 16 salespeople who, by the way, they've sold 100,000 of their burner management units. Okay. So they have all the customers, they do it. But, I had a very successful webinar with FLIR last week and generated 90 leads that we're following up on. Already got 7 discovery calls. So they're looking at our ability to do marketing. And they're saying, man, now I'm even more interested in getting this deal done. So that's on the sell side. But one of the things Roland said right at the front, man, I love buying media companies, which are traded at multiples in the toilet, and turning around and using that, buying that audience to then turn them into a higher ticket offer like software. So yesterday I approached a magazine, I'll just tell you, it's Oil Man. And they, within 5 minutes, they were talking about selling. I mean, I didn't even say, do you want to buy? But the problem is, well, they were desperate because they're a print magazine. They got the right audience that I want.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to move to digital. And that's my background is media. I had a magazine called Windows NT Magazine, did really, really well, sold it for $100 million to Penn Media.
I think I remember Windows NT.
Yeah.
It was like in all the stores and everything, right?
Oh yeah, it was in 160 countries, 13 languages, had millions of subscribers, IT professionals. And I've done a lot of media M&A. So when Roland first said, I buy media companies, I was like, wait, media companies, dude, that's my background. I love, like I could buy, it didn't really dawn on me to go buy the media company. So that little revelation is kind of why I joined, like buy a media company, turn it on to something super high value. So that's it. Buy media company, turn those eyeballs into potential software things. So I've just started, I already, a Rocky Mountain Oil Journal, I had a meeting with them. I told them no, they wanted too much. They'd let that magazine slide into oblivion. But Oil Man seems promising. They've kept it up. They've kept their readers up. So those are the two things. So immediate need is earn in on the publicly traded company.
Yeah.
And then, I need to go a little bit further down the road with Oil Man, but I have a feeling they're going to really, really want me to fix their magazine, or they will, they do not know how to move to digital.
The earn-in with the publicly traded company, have you spoken to that with them at all yet?
Yeah, they're very interested. They are already the co-CEOs of the company, which were formerly the VP of Biz Dev and CFO, have said, we want to own 51% of your company. And I said, well, let me get the first 2 deals done, and then we'll come back to you. I don't want to do it pre-money. We just started in March, but we got our first deal done. And oil and gas, it's a long sales process, but our first deal is like $5.5 million of
it's small is what you're saying.
Yeah, just one is $5.5 million, but they pay 10 years of recurring revenue up front.
Nice.
There's a whole reason why, and they have a lot of CapEx budgets that they have to spend because of the way investments work. But anyway, it's a crazy deal. So, so earn in. So I want them to say, all right, you earn the right to buy into our company for every deal you sell. That would probably be the best. They have 16 full-time salespeople, so they have the ability to do it, and they have.
But they want to buy you out, right? That's what they're after.
Oh, they want to buy it out, and
I mean, why don't you just do a straight exchange from sending your company for a key percentage of theirs? No earning, just hey, that's what I want.
They could, I mean, straight up, and do what would be the equivalent of like the 1031 exchange. We swap stock, we get their stock, and there's no taxable event.
In my head, that's what I would do, because you're actually worth a higher multiple. Once you've got a couple of deals under your belt, you can predict out the 12-month revenue. Use that as the valuation of your company at 8 to 14x based on the fact that you're a software company. Compare it to them, which are trading at probably 0.7, and calculate what your straight exchange would be, and then be like, yo, this is what I want. Because
and I want to do, and I'm going to do that eventually, but part of me wants them to earn their way in rather than do it all up front. I mean, look, if they throw a high enough price, I mean, I think if I were you, I would lead the way. If they're eager, my honest opinion is I would just, because I agree, I think your software would make them a multiple. And I think I would just say to them straight, value your company at between 8 to 14, I'd go for big to let them push you back down. So I'd probably say, look, my company, is realistically 10x, perfect. My company's going to operate at 10x because we're a software. And I would say to them, look, there are other oil companies out there that we know would be interested in taking this because of what it does to the multiple. Just act from knowledge and say, I'm interested in coming to you guys. You guys don't currently have a software, so your multiple is more like 0.7. And then be like, but I would just straight up exchange shares right now for your value based on my projected value based on the deals that I've done. And then I'd probably just try and do 3 or 4 deals, or 1, 2, 3 deals as soon as possible to show what your multiple is. Cool. Dude, I think they'll go for it. I think you'll just win.
Awesome.
They probably
That's good
would.
feedback. That's great feedback, Adam.
Yeah.
Awesome. I hope that helps, Mark. Christopher Wick, you had a question. Why don't you ask away?
Hey there, Adam. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, buddy.
I picked up on two really interesting things about your negotiation that your client hired you to do. And I have two questions. One, the guy, you called him an aggressor. So it seems like instantly, y'all were kind of butting heads. So my first question is, when someone starts off aggressive and they're rude, how much does that turn you off from a deal?
Me personally, 100%. And I actually, at the end of the deal, said to the two buyers, I think I was the reason why they don't want the owners in. Because I said to them, listen, that guy is going to argue with every client, everything you do, that's your new business partner. I was like, you should be aware of that. The other guy seems really nice. He's very quiet and chill. And he was just like, yeah, this all sounds good. Like, I know this from my own company. Like, so, my company's doing 7 figures a year, but I want it to be doing 8 figures a year. And if the right partner came onto me with the right evidence that they could scale it, I would be interested in them taking some of my company to 10x me, but I'd want them to do the work, right? And so it would have to be the exact right partner who 100% knew what they were doing better than me. But if that person came along, I'd be like, yeah, there would be no aggression at all because I want it to happen. That's the deal that was offered these guys. They were offered to go from 1 million to 10 million by 2 guys who know what they're doing. And they were fighting it because they were arguing over a couple of $100,000. And I'm like, what do you want, 10 million or 100,000? It's like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and that's a good point. My second question is, how important should personality be as we're negotiating, buying and selling? Personally, if I don't jive with someone and we're not in a rapport, I consider it dead because I'm like, this isn't going to work. If we're in the dating phase and we're not getting along and we're going to sell or buy or do something, I'm not interested in doing business with people that we're not getting along. But am I being too harsh?
No, I don't think so. It's funny. Me and Eve were in the middle of buying a commercial property. And there were 2 properties and 2 different realtors. And one of the realtors Eve didn't like. And she's like, we're not buying that property. I'm like, why? And she goes, I don't like the realtor. I was like, that has no bearing on the building. She goes, yeah, but that's the kind of realtor that would lie about stuff and then would buy it and be stuck with something. So we ended up buying, and it was actually the better building, but we bought the better building from the realtor that we love. And sure enough, she's like fighting for us. She's pointed out mistakes that somebody else might not have noticed. And she just got our back. So, and we've worked with this realtor before, so we know we'll keep using her. But it's a good example, yeah. I won't do a deal if I don't like the person.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Good questions.
And John was asking, was it 3 times the EBITDA on the deal?
Okay. It was 3 times the EBITDA, but they were calculating EBITDA wrong, which also proved a problem. They were like adding in potential revenue into their EBITDA. It was all sorts of weird. Once we got into the numbers, it looked really fuzzy.
Hey, Heather, are you available? Did you want to ask your question directly? Heather Stevens. You can unmute. I know she's been looking for media opportunities in the pet space and she keeps striking out. So she was kind of frustrated. And I know Sharon, you reached out as well. But I don't know if you have anything to share with Heather that might help as far as media. Heather, if you're listening, we'd love to hear from you if you want to chat. No? Okay.
So I'm just gonna throw this out. I did a quick Google of pet magazines. And I found Animal Wellness Magazine, I found Pets Magazine, Pet Food Industry Magazine, Best Friends Magazine, Pet Age Magazine, and there's just a bunch of them. So I just Googled pet magazines and that brought up a whole bunch. And then I would also honestly be looking at Instagram to see if there's any pet influencers. You'd probably be able to get those at a pretty good price if you just want to, to reach out to that. So it might help.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for the media opportunities and pet deal, you might want to think B2B. It's, going after the veterinary space because you have 0 issues monetizing that. It's a $1 billion industry. So, and the consumer side is, much more competitive, but you go after the veterinaries, the vets, they buy a crap ton of stuff and they have very, very high end surgeries. I mean, how many people do you know have spent $8,000, $10,000, saving their pet, right? Well, they're spending it with the vets, who can do the surgeries and stuff like that. And the entire pharmaceutical industry is spending billions to reach the veterinary space. I mean, every drug you can possibly imagine for humans, ironically, is available. And it would not surprise me at all. You'll hear a simultaneous announcement of a COVID vaccine for humans and for pets.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it'll be another $1 billion thing. So I would look definitely B2B on the pet side. That's where I would focus, not on the consumer. The consumer is good, but that you can get crushed in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think Sharon, you offered in there. So thank you very much, Sharon. That's awesome. And then Jarrell said, even talking to Peter Lang. So that might be helpful as well. So that's awesome. And for some of you guys that are just jumping on, and I apologize, you don't see Roland on here, so you're asking the questions. Yes, Roland is unfortunately could not make it today at the last minute. So Adam jumped in. We are going to reschedule the call with Roland, so don't worry, you will get your other call with Roland. I'm very sorry about that. We've had some glitches in our office this week, so it's been kind of a tough week. So thank you guys for hanging in there. We will get this rescheduled, but Adam, as always, massive team player, jumped in, said, hey, I got you guys, and we can still do Q&A and talk to everyone and kind of see how we can support one another. So thank you there. Heather is asking, and Heather can't really talk because she's in the car, but she did say, actually, Adam, can you expand on the influencer piece for acquisitions?
Yeah. So something that might work is there's a lot of people, like a lot of so-called influencers, that just build up an Instagram page and get tons and tons of followers quite rapidly. And they then charge people for shout outs on the page. It might be worth, you could hire a few shout outs, which could just be some good cheap media. And then if you get a bit of get a phone call with them and see if they'd be open to you buying them out or partnering with them to sell this to them. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do with that. So, most of these little influencers, they don't really know much about big business. They just know how to draw an audience and they don't really know what to do with it. When you're getting paid $50 to do a shout out to 200,000 people and, you're just hoping to get $50, giving them their own product that they can sell can be huge, and you can take a piece of the business for that.
Awesome. That's very helpful. Thank you. Any other questions, guys? If you have questions, post them. This is the time to ask while we have Adam here. So if you feel free to unmute, ask the question, or type it in as well. So
Diana, this is my top tip I just discovered. Have you ever heard of ManyCam? I'm obsessed.
No.
ManyCam is a software that plugs into Zoom, which is what I'm using today. And you can create lower thirds and all sorts of special effects and switch cameras. And it's like $100 a year. Yeah. So everyone, if you want to upgrade your Zoom experience, ManyCam.
Okay. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. All right, everyone. We just got some massive marketing tips from Adam. That's awesome. Look at that. That's so cool. I love that. All right. Any other questions, guys? You guys, this is your time. If you have questions about a specific deal, if you have questions about just generic negotiating the deals, this is the time to ask those questions.
I'll give you, I spoke about this briefly while they're coming up with some questions, but this is one of my fun things about negotiating, guys. I always know 3 things when I go into a negotiation. I know my walkaway price. I will never accept anything beneath my walkaway price. That is the absolute, I'm just done. I don't care about it. I know what I want. And then I know what I'm what my ideal is. And what I'll always do is I'll say, I want my ideal, and I'll hint at my want, but there'll be a trade, right? So I'll be like, this is my perfect deal. But if you're willing to give me better terms, I can maybe do this. And I almost always know they'll ask for both, right? So a good example would be, I'd like to buy 40% for 100K. Let's just say I want to buy 40% for 100K. But if you're willing to give me owner financing, then I would be open to paying 120. And then I know in that situation, they're probably going to take that. But they might just say, yeah, you can take 40% at 100, and then I might ask for owner financing anyway. But that's how I'd negotiate. But then I'll have a walk away that will be 150. 150, they have to own finance. And I probably want 30 days before I make my first payment, right? So, and I always know all my numbers. I won't go into negotiation without knowing all 3, and I never state my walk away. They don't get to know what that is. Because the minute you tell them your walk away, they'll ask for more. So I just never tell them what my walk away is. And if we get to a point where they're pushing past my walk away, then that's the only time I'll state it. So if they're like, no, it must be 200. I'm like, look, at 150, you have a deal, but that's my absolute walk away. And I need owner financing for 100% of it. And I need 30 days to make the first payment after ownership. And so I'll state that very, very clear to people.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Stephen, why don't you unmute and go ahead and ask your question live to Adam?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Adam, it's Stephen. We talked about 10 days ago. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Good to see you.
Great. So Adam gave me some good tips about just tapping my local network to look for construction companies to buy, just starting to network with people who we know and then people who they know, and kind of going the organic route to generate some potential deal flow for acquiring construction related businesses. So we have a metal building construction company that erects metal buildings, and we're looking at acquiring another metal building company, and then also maybe doing some of the other trades like excavation, which is just like, bulldozers and grading the land, making it flat. And we're looking at a couple other trades. And so, talk to a couple people, said, hey, look, maybe we just come in, we grow the company, we pay you essentially. Like, there's an older guy that we're doing a deal with right now who's 72. His company does $1.5 million, which is pretty much the same size as ours. Where we sat down, we had lunch, we negotiated a few things. That deal is pretty straightforward because he's motivated because he's older and he just doesn't want to work anymore. But like, to somebody who's, younger or in an earlier stage of their career where they are focused on growth, I've had difficulty like convincing people that, we can do what we say we're going to do. Like, okay,
I got you. It's easy. So first of all, you don't want to grow them before you become part of it, because then it's going to be harder for you to get involved.
Of course. Yeah.
So I would say,
it's like, if I'm going to grow you in exchange for equity, let's start this partnership.
I would do something where like you're getting a percentage of profit but no equity to start off with. Or maybe even just a percentage of the money you bring in. And then once it hits a year, then if they, and then it matures. So basically they have a choice. They can either kick you out or they can give you equity and you stay on. And that's the kind of thing. And then you're basically like, you're proving how good you are, because you're like, look how much I've done in this year. I'm either going to take this away and give it to another company, or I'm going to stay on with you in return for equity. And the equity equals the percentage profit you've been taking, but except it applies to everything instead of just what you bring in.
So let's say there's a company doing $1 million a year right now. He's, this guy is an excavation company. He's like, yeah, I'd really like to work with you guys. This is a real life example, right? So he owns a little bit of equipment. He's saying, you guys do the sales and marketing for us. We'll perform the work. We'll work underneath you guys. You can mark up what we're making. And if you keep me busy, then we can talk about, a deeper partnership.
Yeah,
so,
but I would say to him, no, what I want to do is I want to set this from down one, because if I increase the size of your company, you then might try and find somebody else or try and negotiate a better deal for you. I was like, that ain't happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'd say to him,
what would you?
we're gonna come on board. We're gonna market for you, but we're gonna sign a contract today that says at the end of a year this contract matures. Initially, I'm gonna get 40% of all the money that we bring in, and in a year that's gonna end up
40% of the profit.
You're gonna have to work out the exact little details because I don't know what your margins are. But in my company, I would say I want 40% of all the profit that comes in, right? Okay. But I'm gonna say, but the only thing they can calculate as costs are these things, so they can't just create new costs. Mm-hmm. So I'd be like, your fee is this. Anything above that is what we split 60-40. Okay. So at the end of the year, you have two options. One, we turn off everything we're doing, we go away, and we're gonna give this to somebody else. Okay. Or two, it matures, you keep on with us, and it turns into 40% equity in your company. And then we provide this for your company, and we continue on 60-40% of everything.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's interesting. It's so unusual in construction because it's like we're bringing him on as a subcontractor, and we're going to be marking up his services, right? And so the question is, at what point should I bring him in and just have him be an employee with some profit sharing as opposed to...
And that's the flip side to it. It might just make sense to do that. And you remember, like with deals, me specifically, like I almost always keep as much as I can, or just be a tiny piece of somebody else's. There's really only two modes, right? Either it's all mine, right, or I just want to do a little bit and I want a small piece, but I want to get paid, right? Durrell makes a good point about, doing fee plus percentage. And there is an argument that you do fee plus percentage and that becomes part of the cost, that there's a cost for your services.
Right.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's worth it. I mean, it sounds like maybe you just want to roll them into you.
It looks like that. It's just at the beginning. I mean, I would like to buy all the equipment because then I get the tax write-off and I could like buy the equipment and then lease it to him because he's already renting the equipment. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to kind of get in the equipment rental business at the same time as doing that. So
yeah, hell yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks.
No problem.
Awesome. And then Larnie had a question as well. Larnie? If not, Larnie said, how do you calculate your maximum offer dollars if the seller asking price is below the multiples?
If they're asking for less than you want to pay, you just accept the less than you want to pay. I mean, yeah, you don't need to push them up. Just be like, yeah, we'll go for that. I mean, and if they're asking for less, it usually means they're trying to get rid of it. Like maybe consider better terms, more favorable terms.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions for
I do. It's Joanne. Adam, when you talk about profit, a percentage of the profit you were speaking with Stephen about, sellers can play with what is profit, and allocate all kinds of costs to it. Wouldn't it be better sometimes to say percentage of actual just revenue? Because that just it's what goes into the bank account and it's easy to track.
So not everyone can do percentage of gross though, because sometimes, like especially construction, different buildings are going to have different costs. That's why I state they have to write down what all costs are in advance and approve that first before going into the deal. So for example, in one of my deals, I would say, maybe building costs plus staff labor capped at this per project. You write it all out. What is an allowable expense? Anything above that, they can't just put in.
Okay, so then you would have a percentage for each kind of deal. In other words, which actually could be rolled back into actual revenue. In other words, if you look at that.
Yeah, the key is we call it allowable expenses. So it's cost based on allowable expenses. So there are some things that just, like for example, if they take a business trip to go and negotiate a deal, that's not an allowable expense. And I specifically will state, if it isn't on my list of allowable expenses, you can't claim it. And then some people will say, well, I need to go on a business trip to secure this. And I'm like, okay, you're going to have to pay for that yourself. Or maybe we'll both agree that this is an exceptional circumstance. But exceptional circumstances have to be agreed by both parties.
Okay.
That helps.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
All right. Any other questions, guys?
I actually had one, and sorry,
Okay.
I was watching on Facebook, and then I was just early to get on here.
Perfect.
Awesome.
I appreciate you contacting us from the ISS.
Oh yeah. That's my son in school. That's why we have that background.
I love it. I think it's cool. I like it. I'm all about backgrounds.
That's funny. So I was talking to a dermatology office, a seller, and I found out that they had a bunch of Medicare fraud, and they had some investigations for wrong medications that were listed, wrong medications that he had written out, the doctor had written out. But it still was interesting practice. It was still cash flowing. If you wanted, they ended up selling it to someone else. He just got it under contract yesterday. But if you wanted to buy something like that, is there a way to still take all the clients and, the patient and get around?
But I actually did a deal like this. My game store, I bought just the assets and not the business. And I gave him I paid a discount because of it. I said to him, you have bad practice in your business. I don't want to buy that. I was like, I don't want to be liable for your mistakes. So I will buy all the assets. I'll buy the mailing list. I'll buy the product. I'll take over the rent of the building. I was like, I'll buy all these things, but I don't want your customer. I don't want your business.
Great. So when you put it in a new company, then you don't have the liability that they have. Like
we named everything. Yeah, we made a whole show of it. We were like, hey, we didn't say company's under new management. We said we're a new game shop that's taken over the space.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And there was some pains to that. Like we had to actually reapply for a bunch of like really irritating permits and distribution deals that we could have just borrowed from him, but it was worth it to not have any liability.
Right. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Adam, could I add a question on to what Cammie asked? Because Cammie and I were actually talking about this deal together. A risk that I saw was there's no guarantee my new set of patients I'm buying would go to my new doctor that I put into place, because patients don't really have contracts. How would we mitigate that risk with a deal like Cammie and I were discussing?
Good question. I don't think you can mitigate the risk. All you can do is discount the price on the customer list because there's no guarantees they're coming across.
Okay. What are your suggestions for how we can educate the patients on why our new dermatologist or practitioner is super awesome?
Invite them to take part in some kind of new experimental study or something. Like, hey, we've got this new product we're looking to give away. It's, I would say something like, we've got $500 worth of new products that we need tested. We're looking for people that are open to trying this new amazing technology for free. And then they come in and you give them a bunch of samples and then sign them up. And, you know, you could do some follow-up testing, like, hey, we want to make sure this is okay in your skin. We'd like to do a 24-hour follow-up, 12-hour follow-up, 7-day follow-up, and then a 28-day follow-up. And you just get used to coming in the office. Now you're indoctrinating them into coming in all the time. And every time they come in, I'd give them gifts. I'd probably have like, oh, we're seeing opening week, so you get a glass of champagne. Oh, and just constantly do this. Like, I love coming here. This is the best. And then
awesome. You know, the 7-day, 14-day, 28-day, that's brilliant, because that's exactly what I do in my marketing agency. If we talk enough, we already have a relationship, so you're already committed. So Cami, definitely put that in our notes, because that's a really good idea. Thanks, Adam.
Got you, man.
All right, and then Brandon, you got a question? Go ahead.
Hey guys, quick question for you. So if you're looking at a company that has existing lines of credit, right, and they have the existing relationship with, you know, multiple financial institutions that are not only backed by the company credit, but by personal collateral and personal guarantees, and they're necessary to continue the everyday, you know, function of the business, and you're assuming the company, right, or you're purchasing the company, how do you, I mean, is it possible to maintain those lines without stepping in on a PG basis, or what do you do?
So we had this problem with our store and we couldn't maintain it. We had to just let it all go and start again. And that was frustrating. I love these kind of questions, because this is why I have a CFO and this is why I have Roland. When I have situations like this, the very first thing I do is I book a consultation with Roland or with a lawyer. I have a team lawyer. It's actually really cool. I taught my team lawyer what we do in Epic, so that whenever I talk to my, she knows what I'm attempting to do. So I think one of the best things you can do is educate your lawyer, or use, you know, Grant, but make sure they understand what we're trying to do. And then my CFO, and I'll sit and have a conversation with them, explain what's going on, and I let them make the decision. I trust them. That's the part of having like a powerful team behind you.
Have you ever heard of an arrangement where you would keep that seller on for a certain period of time just to maintain those lines?
I've definitely heard of people doing it. I've got no direct experience of it. I can tell you that with our company, with the game store, we tried to keep on distribution lines. Basically, for us, it wasn't really lines of credit. It was a discount that was earned over time. And the discount was a difference between like 25% and 53%. And we wanted the 53%, because obviously that's a huge difference on the profit margin. And we just couldn't maintain it. We were using their account for a few weeks, and they just started getting shut down. And we got the old owner to try and help us, and he was just like, no, they're just saying no. And so we just had to work it out again. In the end, what we ended up doing was we had to put large transactions through to regain the discount. And we were just selling things at cost to friends of ours. And we were like, yo, if you want to buy stuff through us, like, now's the time. And we were just putting in huge orders by just phoning up people and giving them, you know, 25% discount, 30% as it increased, until we got back to it. So, right. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm definitely not saying that that's the right thing to do, or that was legal. I'm just saying that's what we did. So I, you know, talk to a financial expert.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
And then Marlon, as far as your question is concerned, as a coach, you can set up a call with Coach Adam, and he'll do a call with you. If you're looking for him to help you with like negotiating the deals and things like that, you can talk directly with him, and you guys can figure that part out as far as any cost that would be incurred for that. But as far as just talking to and using the coaching calls, you can get with Bailey, and you should have Bailey's email, and she'll directly book that for you, and you guys are totally good.
Absolutely.
All right.
Perfect.
All right. Anybody else? If not, we're going to go ahead and end it for today. And again, I apologize that Roland was not able to make it. I appreciate your patience. I am in gratitude to Adam for jumping in here and helping us today. Thank you so much. I will get the next call scheduled with Roland, so you guys don't you worry about it. You guys will be able to get that call. You're not losing a call with Roland. It'll just get added on. So don't worry. That's going to still move forward. Other than that, you guys have an amazing Tuesday. Let us know if you need anything. I will say this though, and I do want to apologize. Our company has had a email migration this week, and so our emails have been down. So if you're trying to reach Deanna at Digital Marketer, or if you're trying to reach Bailey at her Boost Equity, our emails are kicking back. So just know that we are sporadically still getting them. Don't worry, we will answer everything as soon as we can. Things have been a little bit slower because for the last 2 days, we are having some massive email issues. So don't worry. I just want to make sure that you guys know that we're not ignoring you. If you send us an email, they're trickling in. We're trying to get it. We're trying to figure out what is the problem with that. And our company is working really hard to get everything fixed. More so just because Bailey and I have multiple emails. It's been a little bit of a challenge. So thank you for your patience. Just know that we are not ignoring you. You guys mostly have my cell too. You guys can always text me, call me. I mean, that you can't mess up. So just let me know if there's anything.
You say that, Deanna, and then it will mess up.
And then watch my phone. You know, for today, that's probably going to happen. So, all right, guys, we love you guys. Y'all have a great day.
Happy birthday, Deanna.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.